but no one seems to care about what goes on in the classroom. We're 1.5 years behind Singapore students when it comes to reading and science. We're 3 years behind them in maths. We used to be 4th in the world in relation to reading. We're now 16th. We used to be 8th in science. We're now 17th. We used to be 11th in maths. We're now 29th. I remember last year the then Federal Education Minister, Alan Tudge, with good intentions, saying he would reverse this decline. He can't. All Canberra can provide is money. In the year 2021, total education expenditure was $116 billion, 116,000 million. The poor old taxpayer, because our kids can't punctuate, they can't spell, they know little about history and geography, they've never heard of Burke and Wills, they don't know why Melbourne's called Melbourne. They can go through a whole secondary school experience in 6 years and never read an English novel or recite a verse of poetry. And generally speaking, discipline is diabolical. Yet an education system without discipline, content or hard work is not education. None of what is good can happen without rote learning. Spelling bees, learning your tables, knowing that Melbourne's on the Yarra River and Mackay's on the Pioneer River. Last year, La Trobe University offered a short course in teaching phonics, the tried and tested method of teaching young children how to spell and how to read. 1,000 teachers signed up because they weren't taught properly in the first place. Tell me a 12-year-old that can write properly. They've never heard of cursive writing. They print. But they're taught about the dishonest ravings of Greta Thunberg. Indeed, one high school in the Illawarra district of New South Wales taught the Greta Thunberg propaganda in Year 7, teaching that Thunberg told the world that our generation have stolen my dreams, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing, we're at the beginning of a mass extinction. Funny with the energy crisis, eh? We haven't heard much, thankfully, from Greta Thunberg. In a Year 8 class at one high school, students were being made to fill out a questionnaire asking, when and how did you first decide you were heterosexual? 13-year-old girls and boys. It's creepy stuff. To whom have you disclosed your heterosexual tendencies? At one high school, students were made to kneel in homage to Black Lives Matter, an openly neo-Marxist organisation that attacks the nuclear family and promotes gender fluidity. Why am I telling you this? Well, if there were to be refresher courses for teachers, wouldn't it be reasonable to assume that some of these issues would be addressed? In other words, what is happening in the classroom? Are children being educated or indoctrinated? Well, this week, high school principals in New South Wales will have a 3-day conference. Is the theme of the conference, how can we improve educational outcomes? No. The theme will be phosphorescence, where teachers will listen to presentations on finding your light and rekindling your internal flame. Another session will take these educational derelicts through self-care and choosing their own adventure. Now remember, this is at a time of massive staff shortages in schools, where 1 in 5 teenage boys is illiterate. Over 20% of boys and 10% of girls can't punctuate sentences, spell simple words, or write a story in paragraphs. Between 36 and 46% of teachers are teaching subjects in which they have no special skill. A quarter of the maths teachers have no training in maths. This is Australia-wide. This is from the first ever survey last year of the Australian teacher workforce, a sample of 18,000 teachers. 20% of science teachers, this is Australia-wide, had no training in science. Yet governments are spending $116 billion of your money to achieve not much, but there's a conference going on in New South Wales at a flash hotel in Wollongong. And one of the keynote speakers is reportedly the left-wing journalist Julia Baird, who will encourage attendees, school principals to, quote, cop this, keep placing one foot on the earth, then the other to seek out ancient paths and forests, certain in the knowledge that others have endured before us, unquote. Mums and dads, if you don't think your children are being dudded, then may I respectfully suggest our mums and dads aren't doing the homework needed to enable them to know what is going on in our classrooms.